Magashule, who was Free State Premier at the time of the project, has been accused of corruption along with 12 others, which includes a number of businesses. Let's drill down into those charges now with Khathutshelo Nethayhani, Associate Attorney at Motsoeneng Attorneys. Thank you very much for your time. You've had a look at the charge sheet, I understand. As charge sheets go, does it look comprehensive, well put together and detailed?
Thank you very much for having me, and good evening to your viewers. I think the appropriateness of the charge sheet or otherwise is always dependent on the evidence available. So in this particular instance, I would imagine that the prosecution would have opted to put together those charges on the basis of the evidence available. And that is that really.
So you've, I'm sure, in your time, looked at a number of charge sheets. What is your opinion?
Well, I think the charges, like I said, assuming that the prosecution would be able to produce evidence come the trial for the charges. I think the charges look good, they look properly drafted, but the real test will be on the evidence to back up the charges themselves.
Yes, absolutely. It was interesting, though, earlier this week, the ANC Top Six had a meeting, a media briefing, where they said that Magashule was facing charges relating to a possible lack of oversight over a possibly corrupt tender. But Magashule is facing much more than just that, isn't he?
Certainly, but I think if you look at the gist of the charges, they relate, a number of them, they relate to failure to exercise oversight as a Premier of Free State, or the then Premier of Free State. So it does make sense. I think I understand where the top six of the ANC was coming from in saying what they've said, in that a bigger chunk of the charges relate to him not having exercised oversight.
Right, so that is part of the charges that he faces. Magashule has spoken exclusively to my colleague, and one of the things that Magashule is saying is that the charges are concocted and trumped up. Is it possible to do that and get this far, this close to trial?
Well, it's quite a difficult call to make, but remember, like I've been emphasizing, the actual test here will be on evidence that is produced in court. In fact, I think the whole debate about the weaknesses or strength of the charges, for me, is too premature. I think we'd rather wait for the prosecution to adduce evidence before they produce evidence for their charges, and see how far they can go in terms of backing up their case. I just think it would be really speculative for us to be talking about whether the charges are tight, watertight, whether they can be sustained and all of that prior to allowing the NPA to present its evidence before the court.
One interesting situation I wanted to check with you is around the issue of bail. Bail was granted immediately after he appeared. Is that unusual?
No, not at all. Remember, when we look at bail, we need also to consider the rights of the accused, because nothing has been found at this point against him. And therefore, we need also to consider that when we consider the aspect of bail, to say we cannot necessarily just hold him in prison before we could find anything. I think we need to allow the process to roll, more so because given his stature, I can imagine that it will be difficult for him to evade trial when it comes. Look, there may be possibilities around or other chances of interfering with witnesses and all of that, but the court was also very clear in cautioning him against that. So I suppose there's nothing out of ordinary with what happened.
Even for it to go immediately into a bail application on the very first appearance? That's not unusual.
No, it is not. I think it does happen for a person to be allowed to go. Remember, the intention here is not to restrict the liberty of the accused. I think if we can secure the presence of the accused come the court date, I suppose there wouldn't be any harm in allowing bail.
Thank you very much for your time. That was Khathutshelo Nethayhani, Associate Attorney at Motsoeneng Bill Attorneys.